Hi folks, this is Vicki from patternprincess.com. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to look at how to change color when you're working the bobble stitch. As you can see, I have the colors that I'm using. Actually, this is a Caron Simply Soft yarn, both of them. The yellow you see here is actually a gold, and then the red is called a Harvest Red. So what I have done to set things up, this is 25 double crochets wide. So I have a row of double crochet. Then when I did the bobble stitches, it's a row of single crochet. And then of course, the bobble stitches today, I've used 6 double crochet together. Some folks will use more stitches that they put together and some will use less. Today I'm using 6 double crochet together. And then after this bobble stitch row, then I did 1, 2, 3 more rows of double crochet. And then a bobble stitch row. Now I've done 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet. I am ready for the bobble stitch row because remember the bobble stitch row, this is the back side of the bobble stitches. You can see easily where the red ones, my yarn is getting in the way here, are put. The yellow ones are right here, the gold here are here, but you can easily see where the red ones are. But the bobbles push to one side for me when I work them. So they're going to push on the outside. There's really a lot of nice little texture that's created with the bobble stitches. Isn't that nice? Get the yarn out of the way so you can see that's the bobble stitches. I think that's so pretty. And so I work them on the row when the bobble is going to be facing away from me. So on this one, I could have worked it when I was coming this way on this row actually right here. But I thought that would be too close together for the look I was kind of going for today to show you folks. So that's where I did 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet. So let's get started. So what I've done is you can see I've alternated the colors. So the first bobble row I did gold, the red, gold, red, and then the next one I did red, gold, red, gold. So now the next one here I've decided I'm going to alternate the colors. So this here I would start with my gold and then do red and gold and red. So this is what we're going to do. The bobbles are 5 stitches apart. Okay, 5 stitches apart. So with the swatch being 25 stitches wide, the first one is 5, 10, 15, 20, and the last one would have been on the last stitch, but we don't do one there. So that's how you achieve this look. So here we go. I'm going to show you how to crochet and change color, and I'm also going to show you how when I'm crocheting with a color like this, I sometimes if I'm just changing color and I'm going to switch to a new color at the beginning of a row, I start my yarn differently. But because I'm going to crochet over my yarn until I get to the bobbles, so you can see the yarn a little bit peeking through, and you're going to see that. So, and I try and actually hold it to the back, but it always shows up on the front for me. Maybe I need more practice at that, but we'll continue to practice together. So here's my loop. So when I'm gonna crochet over something, I just put my yarn through that loop. And today it doesn't matter how long of a tail, but I leave a tail long enough so I can actually weave it in. So I tighten up, I have my hook through, I tighten up a stitch a little bit, okay? And I'm going to get my yarn, my gold yarn on my fingers here so I can do the tension. There we go. I should have maybe snipped my other ends shorter so that they wouldn't get in the way, but here we go. So what I do is I actually tighten this up a little bit, this stitch. I'm going to yarn over, bring it through, and I'm actually going to tighten this up. So it kind of captures that yarn. That way, as I'm crocheting, it's not coming out. It's very secure. I'm going to, if I was working on a big project, which I am right now, I'm going to weave these in later before I crochet my border on. So I don't have to worry about them coming out. So I just do that I just tighten up that first little stitch. So that doesn't count as anything. So I'm making believe that this is just my ending loop on my hook as I ended the row before. So now I'm going to do a row of single crochet, and every 5th stitch I'm going to do a bobble. And remember, I'm going to start with a gold yarn. So I'm going to yarn over. So here's one stitch. I usually do a chain as I'm doing a single crochet, because when you go come back the row, it's just really nice to find that stitch and have a spot to put your hook, and it helps, I think, helps the edge lay nicer. So I did my chain 1, and I'm gonna go right back in the same stitch on single crochet. I normally only do this with single crochet. Yarn over, and this is my stitch number 1, so that counts as number 1. Okay, now we have our yarn to the back, and then we're going to go over the inner stitch, make sure we're capturing that red yarn, yarn over, bring it through, and bring the yarn through, and there's your second single crochet. Going to do this again. 3, 4. Okay, now here's where I'm going to do my bobble stitch. So we've got to make sure that we, as we're working our bobble stitch right here, that we're going to crochet over our red, or capture our red stitch yarn in there as well. So I'm going to yarn over and go in the next stitch, yarn over again, bring it through, yarn over and go through 2 loops, and we're going to do this 5 more times. So yarn over, go through the hole, yarn over, bring it back through, and go through 2 loops, keeping that last loop on the hook. Yarn over, go through, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over through 2 loops. We now have 3 double crochets started. This is the loop that was on the hook from the previous stitch. So we got 3 more times. 4, 5, and there's number 6. Now what we're going to do is yarn over, and I kind of hold taut to the top so I can bring my hook all the way through those. Now it doesn't look much like a bobble yet, right? It looks just, if I were to do a double crochet after this, nothing would scrunch up. So the key is to do that single crochet right after it. So here you go. Here's my first stitch of my next 5. But see how they just made that bobble? Can you see that? That just made that pucker out and be a bobble. So, and I also have stitch number 1. Next single crochet is number 2. And then 3, 4. Now I'm going to stop. Here's where I change my color. So you might be thinking that I complete my 4th stitch and then grab my red yarn. But I have found that if I bring my red yarn through right here, the last part of the loop, the stitch here, so this is finishing off number 4. And that's okay if this is loose, I can pull this taut later. Yarn over. Now we're going to crochet over the gold. We're going to go into the next stitch, and here's where I start my next bobble. So in there, we're going to do 6 double crochet together. So here's 1 double crochet, yarn over, same hole, yarn over, go through 2 loops, 2, 3, yarn over, go through the hole, yarn over, through 2 loops, 4, yarn over, 5, 6. Now remember that my gold yarn was a little bit loose when I had first started that stitch. So here's time before we complete the next part of this that I kind of snug this up. See that? Just kind of snug it up, and it makes, a nice stitch there. It's not, I didn't pull much. So right now let's look at what we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 double crochets started, and then the stitch from that we pulled through on the end of that 4th single crochet. So now I'm going to go back to my gold, and I'm going to pull that through all of the loops. There we go. And again, that bobble's done, and now we're going to crochet over the red again, start our next. So yarn over, and then we have our next single crochet, and I'm going to show you in a minute. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just going to stop at 4 because my next one's going to be a gold bobble. Because I just want to, and now I'm going to pull, I'm going to tug this a little bit. See that? I'm just going to snug it up just a little bit. So what we've done our gold bobble and our red bobble. I'm going to turn this back over. So see how you can see the stitches here? Let's count together. We have our first one over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the bigger one. That's the gold bobble. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And see how easy this is to see because I pulled, there's number 5. Because I pulled it through those last 2 loops on the single crochet right here, that 4th stitch, before I completed that 4th stitch, I pulled the red one in. And then I did my bobble, but then instead of pulling the red through, I started the next stitch right here by pulling the gold through. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and now my next one is going to be the gold bobble. And I will show you also, I'll do a row of double crochet after this as well, so you can see exactly where to put your hook as you do the next row. So I'm going to yarn over. Now I'm going to do my 6 double crochet together in stitch number 5, making sure I capture the red yarn. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm just, oops, I'm just going to bring this through. There we go. There's my 6. And then we're going to start our next 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, and I need to take that back out because my 4th, remember, I almost forgot a minute. We have to do our red bobble. So now in that 4th, we're going to put our red back through. There we go. And the yellow or the gold is a little bit loose, but that's okay. So now the next stitch is our 5. So we're going to start our 6 double crochet together. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to snug up that yellow because remember the gold was a little bit loose right there. Bring this to this side so it's on the back side. Yarn over and bring it through all the loops. There we go. And then I should do my last 5 single crochet in the row. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one more here. It's the top chain of the initial chain 3. There we go. Sometimes you got to push your hook through there. 5. Let's turn this over. We have this row done. How about that? We got yarns all over the place here. So we've done an alternating one every other row of our colors. Isn't that pretty? And you can take these bobbles and squish them around and make them more circular. See that? Make them prettier. But as you're working with it, it's kind of hard to have them stay nicely shaped because you're squishing them as you're working them. So let's do our next row of double crochet. Okay, I'm just going to leave my red yarn there right now. I'm not going to snip it off. I'm just going to work the next row. Okay, so we're going to, the next row is double crochet. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. There's my first 3 chains for my double crochet. That counts as a stitch. Right there, that chain 3, it's in line with the previous row, chain 3, so that's a stitch. your first stitch is going to go right here for the double crochet. So right there, so that's number 2, because that initial chain 3 counted as a double crochet. Yarn over, 3, whoops, 4. Now you might be thinking that your 5th stitch is going to be right where that bobble is. Well, not really. Let's take a look at the stitches. So if you look at this bobble, let me move this out of the way. If you look at it, there's actually a stitch here, and a stitch here. They're all underneath. And when it's really important to look as you're working on your double crochets. If you just have a double crochet on top of each other, they should all be right on top of each other. See that? One stitch should be on top of the next. And that way you know that your count is right. So let's turn this over this way so you can see this. So I've done my first 4. So if I would have just gone to here, because that bobble kind of covers it up, if I would have just gone right to here, I'd be missing this little stitch right here. And if you follow that down, that's this stitch right here. So because this bobble is kind of big, pay attention. You got to count. This is really important when you're doing bobbles and stuff. You got to count. So right here is that stitch. That is number 5. And then as you're working this bobble here, this stitch right here, see how nicely that stitch looks because of how we switched our yarn and changed our yarn? It's very evident exactly where that is. So this is going to be stitch number 5. Then I count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next bobble is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all the way through. Now, so when you're crocheting, now that I have everything all mixed up, I'll go this way. Okay, I'm going to do this again, start over again. So yarn over, and so I'm going to do that 5th stitch right there, number 5. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, that should be number 5. You did, well, remember, we were working this way. And our bobble, and this, I'm telling you this because I got goofed up one time on a pattern and I kept being off by 1 stitch and it was driving me bananas. But then I figured it out, what a dummy. So remember, we started over here and it was 5, 5, 5, 5. Well, our next 5 would be here. So from 1 to 5, remember we had the bobble stitch. So then your first stitch of the next 5 was here. So I kept thinking, well, oh, this is my 5th. No. Your 5th stitch would have been over here and you would have had a bobble right on the end stitch. Well, that doesn't make sense to have one there. So it's 5 right here. Now your bobble starts your first stitch of your next 5. See? Don't do like I did. So here we go. In the back of the bobble, we're going to go through those 2 stitches just like normal. There's 1. If I can get this through. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. There's that 5th one, sneak in there. 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then because remember I did that first chain, I did a chain and then I did right back in that same stitch, that first stitch when I did my single crochet. I'm going to explain this to you. So normally you would have to really dig in there to find your stitch, but because I did the chain 1 and then I did that single crochet right back on that same stitch, you see that little loop? Now my number 5 goes right in the center there, and it makes it so much easier. And there we go. We have just completed the next row, and our counts are right. We have 25 all the way across because I did 5 in between. All of our bobbles are lined up, and we changed color. And here's how the back of it looks. I think the black looks really cute. You get these little colors peeking out, and it's flat on one side. So I hope that you try to change colors doing your bobble stitches and practice just like I've been doing. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching today. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay in touch. And have a wonderful day. Take care.